Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Shield, and I am so pleased to have Kristina Dedekian here today. And she is a director of retail real estate, right? And she
Right.
lives in
Marketing
and
specific.
marketing, yes, specifically marketing. And Christina lives in San Francisco. Her company is based in New York City, but she has the best of both worlds and the best of both coasts. So she is here with us today. Christina went through emotionally naked dating. When did you do it, Christina?
I did it, I guess it was a year and a half ago, maybe. Like it wasn't, so it was like, yeah, it was 2022 into 2023.
2022. Okay. And let's talk about people always love to hear how you found me. How did you discover Lisa Shield?
Well, I found you through my cousin, who I'm very close with, that works with you.
Yes.
And she was just talking about you and everything, and we were having a lot of conversations, and I had gotten out of a long-term relationship that wasn't great. Um, and so we had just already been talking about, that kind of thing. And then she was telling me about her job and everything, and she convinced me to give it a try. So that's how I heard about you.
And she's one of our biggest fans. She doesn't just work for us, but she is so passionate about
She's
the work
very
that we
passionate.
do.
Yeah.
It's she's amazing. I think she may be more passionate about this than I am.
She's very passionate, and she
Yeah.
sold me.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And tell me about how you felt when you first started the course. What was that like for you?
So that's a great question. I guess, so it was 22 to 23. I had broken up with my boyfriend of 4 years in August of that year, and I started the course, and I got like overwhelmed because I was also moving apartments and everything. And so I really like found myself putting everything on the back burner. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like hold off, hold off. But once I really started investing some time, and especially the first book that I read attached, I was like, oh, like, why haven't I read this before? Like, this is like just, you know, perfect. And I wish I had found it before. So I guess how I felt starting the course was that it was like a boom, like I wish I had known all this
Yeah.
or thought about all this,
And
or
tell me about your ex-boyfriend.
so
What was his attachment style?
he was an avoidant, and he was, it's crazy because, so when I met him, I was 38. I haven't in my life had a lot of serious relationships. I've been single pretty much my entire life. And I met him, and he, we met at the dog park. He came up to me like to meet my puppy at the time. My dog was like 8 months old or something at the time. And he had a young son, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I'm Paul." Da, da. But he was a very unaffectionate, very closed off, just he just made me feel like, I felt like the insecure, like to the nth degree with him. But I also wanted that. And there were things about him that I enjoyed. We had fun together, we were active together, but he gave me absolutely nothing that I really needed. Affection, um, really that. But
Christina, was it on again and off again? Was it?
no, we were pretty much always on, but it was never like, for example, we didn't really spend the night together that often
Wow.
in 4 years.
Wow.
Really didn't like, it was I don't know, like he didn't care about me that much, I don't think.
So it was
And
empty, like you all
it
were
was very
always
empty,
reaching for something that you couldn't quite get. And it was
totally.
like just,
And right. And he also, if I ever tried to, I always felt insecure even bringing something even slightly emotional up or vulnerable. Like I just felt I just couldn't. And I think that was a big barrier too. If I can't be myself, then like he's never going to know me. And so it was just like this, a big wall. There was always a wall.
and so you broke it off with him?
Well, so yes, I did. But how it ended was so he has a son, like I said, and him and his ex, who I found out later, I thought he was married. He had a kid. He got a woman pregnant when they were like in a pretty early part of their relationship. So they weren't even together. Like he's just not a relationship guy. But anyways, Paul and I had been together for several years, and he's like, Heidi, his, baby mama, um, and him decided that they were going to move to Colorado because they didn't want to raise their son in the Bay Area. And so he's like, "Are you like, would you consider coming with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." But then we didn't really ever talk about it again. He was looking for houses. He didn't really include me. I went with him one time to look at houses, but it was just so anyways, like I guess I was moving, but I just at the end of the day when it was like time, I was like, I'm not going.
Wow. So
Yeah,
that was a heartbreak. That was
it
really a
was.
heartbreak. And Christina, how quickly after you broke up with him did you start the program?
So I think it was all right, so like 6 months.
So 6 months. And were you grieving him pretty much those 6 months?
I was and I wasn't. There was
Mhm.
something about me that felt a lot of relief.
Mhm.
And also, I ended up meeting a few people like right away that like kind of just got me over that hump, I guess. Like, for example, one guy that I'd known forever, same thing through my dog. I was telling him like, we were always friends. He had a girlfriend. He didn't have a girlfriend anymore. But he like I was like, oh, Paul and I decided not to go with him. And he was like, well, I've always really liked you. Can I take you out? And I'm like, whoa. So and then he was cute, but then I'm like, nah. So I had like a little buffer there, I guess,
Mhm.
where I didn't grieve completely because I didn't feel completely alone. Um, and also, I think there was a huge sense of relief for me. I was
Yeah.
not happy for a while.
Yeah. And
So,
so Diane got you to enroll in the program, and you didn't do it for a while because you had a lot going on, but then you read Attached and you finally got into it. I don't know, did you watch some of the Q&A calls? How did
yes,
you
I
do
did.
that?
I did. And I loved them. And there was one woman in particular that I can't remember her name now, but she lived in LA. She was like this fiery brunette. She had like curly hair. I forget her name, but I was super inspired by her. She had just started the course, but she always had a lot to say every Q&A. And I just really loved hearing her story and her questions. And I'm like, because I'm not very good at even in those Q&As, like I don't want to speak up for some reason. I don't know, I'm weird like that. So, but I really find myself, you know, being drawn to certain people and be like, yes, I have the same question.
Yeah.
So I was finding my way through other people. Um,
So you
yes,
learned a lot, right? Being
I
on the
did.
calls and, and hearing the other women's stories. And I think also just the quality of the women and realizing you see some sensational women who are your peers, of course, and you're
Absolutely.
thinking, wow, I'm not alone. What was that like for you?
Um, it was great. It's interesting because it's like runs the gamut of women, right? Like I'm 44, like a lot of the women were older. And I really appreciated their stories. And I did find myself like really drawn to certain women where I just, I thought they were adorable. And I'm like, oh my God, you are so meeting your guy. So for me, it was really nice to see all these different people from different parts of the like country
Yeah.
that were having kind of the same blocks and
Mhm.
issues, no matter what age they were or where they lived. And I loved seeing something in them, and I'm like, oh, like you're good. You're gonna be fine. So, and I feel like it was an uplifting, I feel like everyone uplifted each other, and
Yeah.
then also the other thing is when people were telling like their dating stories, and I'm like, red flag. Like it's so easy to say that when you hear someone, right?
Yeah.
But it needs to be heard in person, I think, in that capacity to just realize that's obvious to
Hmm.
me, but it's not obvious to you, but it not you, but like that person at that time.
Right.
I think it just made things more clear in that way because it
Hmm.
was a real story.
Yeah. And also you mentioned that it was uplifting, which I think is so important for people to hear because a lot of women coming into the program think, oh my gosh, am I going to go on those calls and then everybody's going to be whining and complaining and telling their horror stories. And it
Oh,
isn't like that at all.
no, it was more people talking about their good dates and asking for advice, which was
Hmm.
really fun to hear,
Yeah. And how to
and
open up and how to connect and what to say and, and dating higher caliber men. Did you
right.
experience that yourself, Christina? Did you find that you started once you got your profile and all, did you find
Oh
that
yeah. So when I took my first of all my pictures, like that
yeah.
was a whole new level. I was hesitant about the
Hmm.
idea of having professional pictures. But first of all, my photographer was amazing. And the pictures, I was like, holy shit. Like one of my pictures is my headshot for work. Like I love those pictures. And I got so much positive feedback on those pictures. And then, so that was great. And then also like the feedback from Benjamin on my profile, like changed everything for me too.
Were you
Um,
surprised that those things made such a difference?
I was, and it did attract higher caliber men. It just did. It
They
was,
got it, right?
yeah,
They
it was
got it.
awesome.
Like it really can, they got it. And you would think that nobody reads the profiles and, whatever.
Right, right. But it made me realize like if you do a half-ass answer, you're not serious. And
Right.
so then I also started looking at men's profiles and being like, that's a half-ass answer. Like, no thanks. You
Yeah.
know, like if they
Yeah.
don't put the care in that I do,
Right. And
I don't
so
need that.
you loved the calls, which is such a huge part of the program. And talk about the course itself. I know you admitted you didn't complete all the modules, which is okay. No judgment. I'm
Well,
not
no,
great
I
at it.
know. Yeah, but I liked like a lot of the questions that it asked of me, and I have my notebook. I don't know where it is right now, but it's like I bought a notebook for High Ted. My dog is really up my butt right now. I wish I could find it. But it's like I bought a notebook that says "Fun things happen here," and I had all these little tabs, and I liked that I was able to organize my thoughts, I guess, a little bit, and
Mhm.
also answer questions that I hadn't really asked myself.
Yes, that's a big piece of it, right? Like these questions that you never, nobody has ever said that, but that is so true. You just don't stop and think about like, what kind
Right,
of woman do I want to be? And,
right, right,
what is attractive behavior? And then, of course, there was the final five, the relationship inventory in the final five. What
right.
about that? Was that a revelation for you?
I I can barely remember now. So it's funny because now that I'm sorry, I'm gonna like bring it to like I'm
Yeah.
in a relationship now. Like it's almost like I have to like go back and be like, oh, he is the final five. But for me, it was like an emotionally open person, a um I don't even remember, but the final five was important. I didn't
Hmm.
want a guy that was closed off. So again, open, a like life of the party, but not in a, you know, life of the party way, more of just has a very outgoing, great personality. Um, and that always thinks about me,
Which you
you know,
didn't get before. These are all things you didn't have in your last
and
relation.
affectionate, like affectionate.
Oh,
It feels like it's so funny because like I said, my last relationship, my boyfriend was not affectionate at all. And I remember I dated a couple guys before I met the guy I'm with now that were affectionate. And I'm like, oh my God, he holds my hand. And my friends are like, that's not abnormal. Like, that's pretty freaking standard. And I'm like, I didn't have that with a guy that I like was with for a really long time. Like, I can't believe
wow.
that that was something I allowed and then thought was super special. I mean, I'm glad I think it's special. I think it is special, but it's pretty like, you know, it's a low bar if they're, you know,
So,
but
what was your most surprising or unexpected takeaway from the program?
um I think, honestly, I think it was how people are really easy to put in a category, honestly,
Mhm.
and to like realize that that person's that way, I'm this way. Like, it's not that difficult. It's not that complicated. Like, there are literally a couple different types of people, and they are that way, and they're going to be that way.
Yeah,
And
and you stay, no matter how great they seem, you stay away from those people
oh my God, yes,
and you give these other people a chance. And
yeah,
even if, they don't, it's different, it's a different uh, orchestration,
right,
it's a very different energy and all. But once you make that shift and you realize these guys are never going to change, and
right.
these guys are the ones that are going to hold your hand,
Right.
be
And
affectionate.
yeah, and honestly, it made me feel way better about my past relationship where I was like, that's just who he was. That wasn't about me. That was him, all him. And that was a nice revelation too. Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't my fault, but
it
he
was all
was,
him. It was him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty easy
Yep.
to see now. So
Yeah.
that
So
feels good.
what did you find most valuable about the support or the guidance that you got? Like the coaching and the support and the, you know,
So I remember the coaching thing. Um, when I was talking about, again, this was a while ago. I mean, this was over a year ago that I
Mhm.
had, you know, that I was doing this. But I remember, um, gosh, Rebecca,
Mhm.
saying to me, she was really making me look at the things that I wanted or was accepting and kind of asking me about my past and even like my childhood and where that came from. And so, and I mean, it was basically like therapy, but the therapy that I wanted. Like, I want therapy to like think about that, but like I don't need to dive deeper. I just like that idea, and then let's recognize it and put it, you know, put it not to the test, but you know, apply it.
So
So
that was
it,
great having the one-on-one coaching in
the one-on-one,
conjunction with
and
this.
also she asked me about my parents' relationship, which I had not really thought about before, and it led me to then even ask my mom about, because my parents are divorced, but they got divorced after I was out of college. So, you know, I was older. And she said that my dad was not affectionate at all, like all these
Ah,
things that I really accepted and she accepted. And so it was really interesting for me to realize that I was kind of emulating, or, I was getting some of that from my mom and their relationship. So,
So you met your guy. How quickly, like at what point? Was it after you were done with the program that you met him?
yes, and it was a while after, but
Hmm.
I met him on Bumble,
Uh-huh.
and he was, I mean, it's funny because I was like Diana and I talked about, I was doing, I was putting in the work. I was going on a lot of dates, even with people that I was like, maybe. And I would go on dates with them, and I'm like, definitely not. But I did go on a couple of great dates. And this guy, my boyfriend now, Jesse, I don't know, I don't know. There was something about him. I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, can I go into all that? We ended
Yeah, of
up,
course.
we talked a bit on, on Bumble, and it didn't show his location or anything or where he lived. And I was a little bit weary. I was like, is he like, I don't know, being untruthful or something, So, anyways, we were going to go on a date, and I just felt off about it. So I said, like, can I get your number? And we like just talk before. So we ended up texting this one night. I actually canceled our date, and I was like, can we just talk instead? And so we ended up just chatting all night about different things. And I felt like I got to know him a little better. And so I'm like, okay, now I'm sold. Like, all right. So then I went out with him on, one night. And honestly, our first two dates, he was over the top energy. Like, I'm over the top energy too, but he was like more. And I was not attracted to him, but he was such a gentleman. So our first date was fun. He came to the city. He lives in San Rafael, which is about 25 minutes from where
Hmm.
I live. So he drove in, and we went out to this restaurant and had drinks, but we decided to get food too, and it was great. And then he's like, "Oh, do you want to go out again in a couple days?" So we went out again, and he's like, "I'll just pick you up, and you can tell me what you feel like eating when I get there." So I come out of my house, and I see him. He's like parked right in front of my house. He jumps out of his door and to open the door for me. And I was like, that is incredibly sweet. And he's like, what do you feel like? I was like, I don't know, sushi. He's like, done. We go to the sushi restaurant. He orders off the menu. He's like a man, like a take
Oh.
charge. But I also said, like, I don't care what we eat. Like, go ahead. He was like, oh, I got it. So we did that, and I really appreciated that. And he didn't try to even kiss me or anything, and like he's like, oh, after we had dinner, he's like, oh, do you want to go for another drink? I was like, I mean, I don't think so. It's like a Tuesday. I'm gonna go home. Drove me home. We sat in the car for like another half hour and just chatted. And
Oh.
but I still wasn't like excited about him. Like I wasn't like, oh my God, I met a guy. Like I'm so excited because I didn't feel that attracted to him for some reason.
Mhm.
But so then it was Christmas time at this point. So we went for a month just texting because it like he was out of town, it was holidays, whatever. And I was like, I kind of hope he never texts me again. Like, because I don't know. I just wasn't that into it. And then he did, and so I was like, sure, I'll go out with you again. And he showed up, and he brought me flowers, and we had talked
Oh.
about having espresso martinis, and he brought me espresso martini glasses and like all the things to make it. And we went out to dinner, and that night I was actually attracted to him. And
Oh.
ever since then, I was like, oh, I really want him to call me again. And he did, always. He never left, like, kept me waiting. He would text me
Oh.
right after our dates. And yeah,
Wow,
so
that's amazing, Christina. And Diane told me, she said, Lisa, it was just like you said. She wasn't into him, just like you talk about in the course.
totally.
Nice guy, no chemistry, didn't want to see him again. And I was like, go, go, go. This is what Lisa tells you. You've got
Right.
to
And I
see
had
him.
something in my mind that said go again. Like, don't not go, you know? Like,
Aw.
there's nothing wrong with this guy. I'm just like not excited. But then date three, after that, I was excited. I'm like, oh
And
my God, I hope
Christina,
he calls
how
me.
long has it been?
So so it was December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. I mean, it's been 9 months.
Whoa,
Yeah,
yay.
yeah.
And so
And
what's the plan? Are you moving in together? Are you
I
looking at a
mean,
future?
it's so interesting. So he has a really beautiful home in like outside of the city. I spend at least, I mean, I spend every weekend at his house. And sometimes like he was sick a couple weeks ago and I spent the entire week with him. And
Oh,
I mean, and for the first time in my entire life, I don't want to leave. Like I usually love my space and my, I'm 44 and been single forever. I'm like always ready to like get out of there and like have my own time. And I'm like, I don't need that. Like we
oh,
relax well together. We do everything well together. So are we going to move in together? Probably. But I'm not in a rush.
yeah.
Honestly, I'm not. Because I also like the missing each other aspect. And
Mhm.
we do. I mean,
Oh,
yesterday when I was leaving, because I spent the weekend with him as usual, and I spent, Sunday night with him and Monday, and I had work and he was going to work. And he was like, well, I miss you already. And I'm like, me too. Like, so I don't like,
oh.
I kind of love that phase for now.
So it sounds to me, Christina, like what happened, you came out of this breakup, you did the program, and it really gave you the missing pieces, the how to really move forward in a whole new way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the things that I needed to pay attention to,
Hmm.
when dating,
Yeah.
and the things that I needed to like pay attention to in a good way too, like good and bad.
Hmm.
So, for example, me saying he's such a gentleman, I want to go out with him again, is something to pay attention to that I might not have before because I'm like, not attracted, like, no, like, not gonna, but I paid attention to the other aspect, which was how kind and great and gentlemanly he was, you
Yeah.
know?
Which might have which you might have discarded or
That's
not.
what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have necessarily gone out with him again and
Yeah.
missed the best thing, yeah, probably that you've ever
I mean, I think
done.
about it all the time. I almost didn't. I almost didn't go
Oh,
out with him again. And it's like the way, I mean, how incredible we are together. I'm so thankful that I went out with him again,
and do you feel like you really are one of the luckiest women
Oh
on the
my, I feel
planet?
like the luckiest. I mean, he's the best guy I've ever met, and he fulfills every fantasy I've ever had about how a guy treats you and how like and like how a person can be so open with conversations, and he'll even point out things that I'm going to say this in a way that's not mean. He's like things that even annoy him about me, but we talk about it all. And he's like, I don't want you to think that this is like a judgment on you or anything. He's like, I just want you to like I say my mind. So like I just want you to know like this is what I'm thinking. Like, whoa, you're fucking nuts right now. But he's so open. Yeah, he's my dream. He's my dream man.
Oh, and he probably, even though he's telling you something, he says it with love, and you have so much safety and trust in the
And he says
relationship.
those words. He says
Yeah.
that. He's like, I hope that I'm saying this in a safe place and we can be like, he says those words. I'm like, geez, I mean,
Oh.
he's more evolved than I am. I feel like he's taken the course.
Christina, I know that I can hear how this changed your life. If a woman was on the fence, I know for some people, they say it's a big investment. I think you'd look back and say to yourself, yeah, it was, but this is like a no-brainer,
It's
right?
a
Like,
no-brainer. And honestly, it's not like, it's so easy to spend money. So how about spend it in a smart way? You know, it's easy to invest in random things or throw a lot of like small amounts at nothing,
right.
or you can invest in yourself.
Yeah.
And I think it was absolutely worthwhile. Like day one I thought it was worthwhile. It just was.
And of all the investments you've ever made in your entire life, where would you put this one?
Up there. I mean, like I don't really make a lot of investments, so up there, like, you know, up top three.
Yeah, I've heard it said that the best investment you can ever make is in yourself.
And
And
that's the thing, because when you actually invest in yourself with actual money, um, you are gonna take care for it and like
yeah.
think about it and, invest yourself in it.
Yeah, and it's a big, it's a real reality check. Like if I am going to invest this money, am I going to show up? Am I going to take this seriously?
Right,
Is this
right.
really important? If this is important to me and it matters, then I should invest in this because
Absolutely.
it changes your life. And the funniest thing, if you think about it, let's just say you took that money and you put it into the stock market. Let's just say, right? You'd have more money. You got a guy. He's got a house. He's
Yeah.
got, he's got money. He's
I'm,
got an
yeah.
income. He's got, what do you
It's,
get for your investment? You got way more than you would have gotten if you had put it in the stock
I
market.
mean, I can't even imagine my life without him now. And
Yeah.
it's like my weekends, which were so boring
Oh,
before, because I don't have a ton of friends that are just like hanging out, like, oh, let's go
yeah.
get together. Like but yes. So it was worth the investment and it's, it is an investment in your future, but it's, again, hearing other women's stories and being invested because you spent money on something is something true and real, and you're going to pay a lot more attention to it. And I've like randomly signed up for things on Instagram that like were like $20, whatever, and I like forgot I did that.
Yeah.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to forget I did
Right.
this.
You're not going to forget that you
Yeah.
invested in this. And
Yeah.
the other thing I was going to say is you could never have figured this out on your own. Like you may have found a guy, but the quality of the relationship, the quality of how you show up in a relationship
Yes.
changes dramatically. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I was, I never asked questions of guys before, and I never stood my ground on certain things. And I felt comfortable enough doing that because I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time
Yeah.
anymore. So, and I was lucky enough to find a guy that is as like openly emotional and all that. So it
Hmm.
was, but I definitely dated other guys that I asked the questions of too, and they weren't right, whatever, you know. Um,
But
but
Christina, water seeks its own level, so by doing this work, you elevated your own self so that you
right,
could attract a man like him. I don't know about you. I know for myself, I wouldn't have been ready for my husband if I had gone on a date with him, and in some ways you weren't ready for Jesse. It took you a minute to really
yes,
stop and really get who he is, right? Because
definitely.
you almost missed that. And
I
that's the
really did.
problem. You had
Yeah,
Diane saying, you bet go out with him, go out with him. This is what Lisa said, right? And you had the course or something in the back of your mind saying
totally.
to do this, but you may have missed the best thing that ever happened to you.
I think about it all the time because in my old self,
Yeah.
you know, before the course, I definitely would have missed this guy.
Oh, well, Christina, I am so grateful to you for coming on. I am so happy that you met your guy, not only because it's you, but also because of Diane and
I know.
your family. And so, we are so thrilled for you. You are
Thank
her
you.
hero, honey. You
Thank
are
you.
her hero. She just talks about you all the
She
time.
does. Oh,
Oh
she's
my
about this
God.
picture behind me is from
Yeah.
her porch at
Oh,
her
is it?
house.
Oh my gosh, I can't
Yeah, I
wait to
took
go
it.
visit her. I'm
Yeah.
so
Oh,
excited.
yeah. So, anyways,
Oh,
again, I'm really thankful. Thank you.
Oh,
And it's good to, connect with you as well. And I'm
oh,
over the moon. I mean, he's like
oh.
dream, dream, dream. Like, what in the world? This guy exists? Like, and it's funny. I was thinking about it last night and I was telling Diane the guardian of your soul thing, which it's kind of almost like funny to think about, but this past weekend he took me to his friend's 5-year old daughter's birthday party and we had a great time and then we had like the after party at his house and I was outside like pretty cold and there was a heat lamp whatever he was not even near me he came out he pulled my chair up to the heat lamp he like made a table for me to make me more in the crowd and just like made sure I was perfectly comfortable. And I'm like, I didn't like this guy is guardian of my soul.
Oh, honey. And clearly, you're the guardian of his soul, and you radiate love. And I'm so happy. Nothing brings me greater joy, I have that with my husband, but to think that we can replicate that,
To
right?
think we can find that.
Yeah. To think
Because
that that is possible, and
I definitely didn't.
Christina, if all we do is give people hope, if all Benjamin and I do is just show people that two people can just have this extraordinary love, I mean, this is the meaning of life. Everything else, everything else pales
I
in
agree. I
comparison to
agree.
this,
I
right?
agree. It's
Oh,
so nice. I honestly never thought I would find it. I was like,
oh,
okay, everything else in my life is awesome. I have an awesome family, great job, da, da, I'll be okay. But now I'm like, no, I wasn't okay. It's way better this way. And like you
yeah.
said, it's way better for him too. He
Oh.
appreciates me, I know, as much as I appreciate him. So it's nice.
Oh, well, Christina, thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you,
you.
honey. I wish you a lifetime of health and happiness. And
Thanks.
yeah, and I hope we get to meet one day. You are so amazing. You're everything Diane told me
Oh,
and more. I see why she loves you so
oh,
much.
thank you.
And please give my love to Jesse.
I
I hope
will.
I
I will. And
see.
maybe I'll bring him on. I mean, he'd be down. I just like wasn't ready to.
We'll do it. We'll do it
Yeah.
again. We'll do it next
All
time.
right. Thank
Okay.
you. All right.
Oh,
Have a
well,
good night.
lots of
And
love to you
thanks.
and Ted.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah.
Ted's ready for me to take him out again.
Oh, well,
Dogs.
you go
So much
enjoy
work.
the little rest of your sunlight there. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for doing
All
this.
right. Thank you. This was
It was my
wonderful. I appreciate it.
pleasure. It was my
Okay.
pleasure. Thank you.